So I was reading Bleacher Report, one of my sources, and it's a few other sources you could check out too. But Paul George is basically sick of the Westbrook slander. I mean, Paul George says in the article that Westbrook getting blamed for our losses is stupid. And a part of what he's saying, I have to agree now that I think about it, because he's right. Because Russell Westbrook shouldn't get all the blame for a lot of their losses. Paul George should get some of it too. Because Paul George, he's the one that a lot of people call playoff P still. As much slander as Russell Westbrook gets, he doesn't have a playoff nickname like Paul George has. And I know this year Paul George been playing, one of his best seasons. If you look at the numbers and the percentages and all that stuff, he's had great seasons before, but Paul George is right, though. When they lose, it's not just Westbrook. A lot of it's him. A lot of it's other players. A lot of it's other players. They lose as a team. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that, he's sticking up for his teammate. But Paul George, you got to play better. And what I'm saying is you got to play better consistently. And that's the thing with Paul George. When you need him the most against some of the premier teams, you can look at some games this season. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, Paul George, he put up a lot of points, but if you look at his shooting percentage and how many shots he took to get those many points, you would look at it from a different angle. And that's my thing with Paul George. Nobody is saying that he needs to be 100% efficient, because nobody's going to be. But if he can play his role a little bit better, it would make it easier for Russ to probably feel like it's okay to make mistakes, because right now, they're being so precautious with Russ, not having him play in fourth quarters and things like that. And he knows that he's so mistake worthy and mistake prone that he tries to do everything, perfect enough to where it doesn't look bad and it doesn't come off as a mistake that he made that can help the team lose. And, in saying that, you gotta, with the Clippers, it's like Paul George, Kawhi, all them, they almost have to play damn near perfect, to really keep the thing going. Or at least that's what they think. I'm not saying they have to play perfect. That's just what I feel like some of the Clippers players think, because of the reputation that Russ has. When he comes to your locker room, he's gonna ruin it. You see what I'm saying? And Russ is really not even that type of guy, I don't believe. I just think that, Russ is all gas, no brakes, 100 miles an hour when he gets the ball. And, he's liable to make a turnover because sometimes he's going too fast for his own good. And, when that happens, when you're trying to win a championship, those things hurt. And, like I said, Paul George he's doing a lot of talking in regards to Russell Westbrook. And this is my problem with Paul George. You can agree or disagree with me. I respect your opinion either way. You know how we do. It's all love either way. But regardless, I'm tired of Paul George talking. You haven't won a championship yet. You and Kawhi has been here 4 years, 4 seasons, no championship, no NBA finals. You got to a conference finals, but really that was due to Kawhi and Terrence Mann. Because nobody really wants to admit it, but if Terrence Mann didn't have that 39, 40-point game, that's game 6 in Utah, if Terrence Mann didn't close that deal, they might not have beat Utah. Because it would have went to a game 7. I think game 7 would have been in Utah. I don't know if they come out of that with Paul George being your number one guy. I just don't think so. I don't see Paul George being the type guy in a game 7. He's the type of guy you can go to and rely on him. He put the team on his back and we're going to win a championship. Paul George is not that type of guy. And I'm not saying he doesn't have that ability in him. It just hasn't shown. You know what I'm saying? He just doesn't he doesn't strike me as that type of player in regards to the way I've seen him play throughout the years and everything like that. So I think they would have lost that game in Utah if it wasn't for Terrence Mann going off for big numbers in that game 6, which ended it and they moved on to the next round to play the Phoenix Suns. So my point is, Paul George, stop talking and go out there and play. What is your counterpart, the best player on the team, doing? He's not talking. And we all know Kawhi never talks. But at the same time, I feel like even if Kawhi did talk, he wouldn't talk as much, especially when it comes playoff time, especially when it comes time to get on your grind and really put the pieces together and try to win a championship. Because Kawhi is all about winning. And if Paul George wants to be about winning, let's stop talking about the Westbrook slander and all those things. I understand where Paul George is coming from. I do, because he doesn't want his teammate getting slandered for stuff when they lose as a team. I get that. Well, that means you need to play better, Paul George, on your behalf. Don't turn into Russell Westbrook at times like I see you do on the court. You'll turn the ball over. Sometimes, I mean, there was one game in that 5-game losing streak, he had as many turnovers as Russell Westbrook had in the same game. And a lot of his turnovers, Paul George turnovers came in the fourth quarter, where Russell Westbrook's turnovers came in the first, second, and third. Not even the fourth, because some of the games, like I said, he wasn't even getting played down the stretch. So my point is, let's stop doing all the talking. It's time to go out and win. First of all, we only got about 15 games or less in the season, somewhere in there. So that means everybody needs to be gearing up for their best play, best of everything that they have, and go out there and be the best team you could be. And right now, talking is not going to do anything for you. You got to find your way in these playoffs, and you're only like 2 games ahead of a team that's like in 10th place. So it's like, really, I think the Clippers just, I think Paul George, Russell Westbrook, I think they need to turn it down a notch and focus more on what they can do. Don't worry about the outside noise, because the outside noise is going to be there regardless. People are going to talk good and bad about you, whether you do good or do bad. Paul George knows this. So my point is, just shut up and play, man. And I don't even mean that in a bad way towards Paul George. I don't have nothing against Paul George personally. I just think he needs to be more consistent when you need him the most. Because a lot of other, superstar players like Kawhi Leonard, their second co-star is more reliable to me. You know what I'm saying? Besides maybe like an Anthony Davis or something like that. But really, Anthony Davis is not reliable because of his health. But when he's playing in a playoff game, and of a magnitude, we saw what he did in the bubble. You know what I'm saying? And we seen him in playoffs before where he's put up big numbers. So he's never been, way off, P, or he never had no nickname in the playoffs like Paul George. So I feel like Paul George just needs to, focus on his gameplay, focus on building chemistry with his guys, Kawhi, him and Kawhi, really, I feel like their chemistry is good, but it could be better. I feel like, definitely, even though he played with Russell Westbrook before, the chemistry can get a lot better with him as well, because it's a new team, new situation. And I think this is what Paul George and the rest of them need to focus on. The world's going to keep talking about Russell Westbrook because Russ is Russ, and he's always going to do things that's going to make you scratch your head, and he's going to do things that's going to wow you at times. But that just comes with being Russ. If Russ is used to it, there's no need speaking up for him. He's used to it. He's okay with it. Russ mindset. Every time he goes out to play is to prove people wrong. Whether he proves them wrong or right, or whatever the case may be, he's doing the best he can. And that's all you can ask from him. And I understand Paul George sticking up for his teammate, but really the slander is going to be there the rest of this season going to the playoffs, especially if you guys lose in the playoffs or lose games you're not supposed to. That's just the way it is. I mean, you're not the only one to get slandered. I know it seems like Russ is the focal point of a lot of things in regards to losing. Russ is not always all the problem. He's just a part of the problem. And sometimes what he brings to a team, teams can't overcome it, apparently. So, I mean, right now the Clippers are doing fine, so far. They got a big game coming up, against the Warriors, and that's going to be a tough one, I think. But it's definitely doable. It's definitely winnable for the Clippers. So as I said before, I think really they all just need to focus and just stop the talking. Well, we ain't got to worry about Kawhi talking. He's not going to talk anyway. But just stop the talking and go out there and play. Because honestly, this is your last season of all you guys being together. I believe this team will be blown up if they don't win a championship. Hell, I believe they might be blown up some if they do win a championship. So my point is, this might be the last season all you guys play together with the new additions you have, and just enjoy your time and play as good as you can. And don't worry about the media. Don't worry about some of the naysayers, because if you're worrying about that stuff, you're feeding right into what they want, and things like that could take you out of your game and your rhythm. And that's not what Paul George needs. He needs to be in his rhythm because he has to be that co-star, to Kawhi and back and forth, and co-star to Russ and back and forth, vice versa, so they can win. That's just what it's all about. So, focus, stay consistent, and better your defense and keep the turnovers at an all-time low if possible. And the Clippers will be fine. I know that sounds like, easier said than done, but that's just what they need to focus on. And stop doing the talking and start playing the way people expect you to.